Greetings from the 4th episode. I'm Bob, the host, writer, director, and gaffer's assistant of this particular podcast. Last week I took a big leap forward by adding a how-to segment and some music, and I'm really happy with the results. Continuing in that vein, I'm going to show you the proper way to plant shrubs in your yard, so let's get the episode underway. The first bit of news from the weekend is that last Friday I brewed my Scottish ale. In my infinite wisdom, I forgot to take any pictures of the process, so all I have is this picture of the fermenter I posted on Facebook. I'm happy to report, though, that it's already percolated, which means it's alcoholic and I officially have beer. I'll have to remember to do a how-to on homebrewing sometime. I'd also like to announce that the web series A One-Up Kind of Life is going to have a table at this year's North Carolina Comics Con. There'll be free candy, some merch, and you can chat with the director, so anybody attending should swing by and say hello. And now let's get to this week's lesson, the basic of putting plants on the ground. First off, the best time to plant is late fall and early winter, not spring. This is because it gives the roots a chance to establish themselves for when the plant starts growing in the spring. If you plant in the spring, you'll have to water it all summer. Also remember that different plants thrive in different conditions, so do your research first. Now, assuming you have the right plant for the right spot, here's your step-by-step installation guide. First, dig your hole. Making it a few inches wider than the root ball gives you room to adjust the plant, which is particularly helpful if you're trying to line up several in a straight row. Depth-wise, when you set the plant in the hole, the top of the root ball should be just above ground level. Piling the dirt evenly around the hole will make filling in the hole easier, especially when you're dealing with large, balled and burlap plants. Now that you've dug your hole, sprinkle a few handfuls of fertilizer both on the piled dirt and in the bottom of the hole. Next, lightly sprinkle polymer in the bottom of the hole. Polymer helps store water for the plant during the hot, dry summer. Mix the dirt in the bottom of the hole so the fertilizer and polymer are thoroughly mixed up. Now the plant is ready to go in the hole. Rough up the sides of the root ball to encourage the roots to grow outward and place the plant in the hole. Once you're sure the plant is straight and lined up the way you want it, fill in the dirt. Now here's the real secret. To catch as much water as possible for the plant, create a catch basin by forming a ring with dirt that's about the same diameter as the root ball. If you're planting on a slope, you may have to bring in extra dirt to build up the lower side. As with the flower bed last week, you'll need a ground cover to hold the dirt in place. This can be bark, mulch, or pine straw. In this case, I used mulch. The last step is to water the plant thoroughly. You'll know if the ring is working if the center starts to fill with water and none is leaking out of the sides. And that's it! You'd be surprised how many pros don't do this properly, which leads to a lot of dead plants people paid good money for. Hopefully you can use this guide to give your new plants the best shot at thriving. So now that I've taught you something, let me kill a few of your brain cells by bitching about movies. I'm only going to talk about 2 this week because the more I thought about them, the more I found myself comparing them to each other, which I thought was kind of interesting. Usually when you think of foreign films, you think of long, slow-moving movies with pretentious dialogue. The Raid is exactly the opposite of that. This is the story of a SWAT team raid on a tenement building run by a drug lord that goes all wrong. And that's it. That's exactly what you get, 90 minutes of wall-to-wall gunfights and martial arts. It's like The Rock, a simple premise that gives the filmmakers license to wreak glorious havoc on your eyeballs. And it doesn't offer anything else, but it really delivers on what it promises. On the other hand, we have Once Upon a Time in Anatolia, which is a long, slow movie with a lot of pretentious dialogue. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot to like here. I mean, first off, the movie looks great thanks to some really amazing cinematography. Each shot is like looking at an Ansel Adams photo. It also has a pretty interesting premise, even if the climax is totally underwhelming. Now, I said this movie is long, wordy, and pretentious, and I stand by it. If I had to compare it to anything, it would be Meet Joe Black. But unlike that god-awful movie, if you do manage to slog through Once Upon a Time in Anatolia, you'll look back and realize it's actually a pretty good film. It's a lot like 2001: A Space Odyssey that way. It's definitely the kind of movie you appreciate more after the fact. It's just too bad it takes so damn long to get there, because it'll really bore the crap out of a lot of people. Kinda like 2001. What made this all interesting is that I just randomly happened to watch these 2 movies back to back, and they turned out to be polar opposites of each other. I mean, one is non-stop action, the other is non-stop talking. One is full of ideas and themes, the other is completely brain dead. One has an epic finale, the other has almost no payoff whatsoever. One is filled with gorgeous landscapes, the other takes place in dark, filthy corridors. One is terribly cliched all the way around, and the other is genuinely surprising with its plot twists. In the end, I can say I like both, but for completely different reasons. So that's it. The end is here, and I must now go and figure out what I'm going to talk about next week. Don't forget to stop by our table at Comic-Con, but otherwise, I will catch up with you next week. Damn. It's almost Christmas season. I gotta finish up this pumpkin beer.